All right. A good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. A good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you are watching from, whether it's live or if it's after the fact. We appreciate you. If you're watching the show now, you know that you are watching This Week in Pop Culture, otherwise known as THWIP. Yes, THWIP. Thank you for watching, this new edition. And, thank you for bearing with us as we had, made that change from This Week in Review over to This Week in Pop Culture. Thank you for bearing with us. And of course, and talking about all the goings on in entertainment over the past week, I won't be alone, of course. I will be joined by none other than Spillimetry Sweetheart, aka Spills. Spills, Spills, Karma Love. You like all those AKAs? There you go. There you go.
Oh, this is I'm gonna call you call me Chilly Spilly this week because it's been snowing all
Chili,
week.
Spilly. That's true.
It's
That's
been
true.
snowing
That's
all week,
fair.
ladies and gentlemen.
That's
It's
fair.
been just nothing but snow. So, I'm just happy to be here with you and not, out in the elements because it's cold out there. I've been doing some sledding with the little man, but it's been fun. How about you? Have you had any hot cocoa? I taught him hot cocoa last night. What about you?
Nah, I can't say I've had any hot cocoa. This during this round of snow that we've had, I need to get into that and get some, hot cocoa or some cider. What the deal is. Either or, I'm cool. I can rock with either. So yeah, I need to get on that, especially seeing that we are supposedly getting more snow
Oh,
before
really?
the weekend is all said and done. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
man.
Let me look at my
Yeah,
forecast. I didn't even know this. You see this, ladies
yeah.
and gentlemen? We
See?
even break news to ourselves on
There
this
you
here
go. There you
podcast.
go. There you go. There you go. So again, thank you for joining us, guys, on This Week in Pop Culture. And typically, what we like to do here is to get into some news bits that run the gamut throughout the umbrella of entertainment, if you will. And we're going to start first by talking about a film festival that just earlier, I had someone on talking about their involvement with that festival, and that's none other than the Sundance Film Festival. Yes, Sundance 2024. If you're not familiar with it, this will mark their 40th edition of this film festival program. That just as the title would have you believe, as a film festival providing all types of programming, whether it's with dramatic and documentary features, short films, episodic content. They provide other programming as well, whether it's with conversations with filmmakers, panels, etc. Now, like in terms of the breakdown of what they offer overall as a film festival, I'm not going to go into every single tidbit, but just to give you an idea of the scope of this film festival. It had 17,000 submissions. With the number of submissions that they've had over 4,400 total feature films. In terms of those submissions, they had over 1,600 US features and over 2,700 international features. And in terms of those that were accepted, there were 153 total projects, 91 being features and episodics, 88 being feature films, 48 being narrative features, only 28 being US narrative features, and 20 international narrative features, as well as 35 documentary features. I can continue to go down the list. They do have a breakdown, additionally, of what they offer in terms of different demos, whether it's with the film breakdowns that they have with female filmmakers, women of color, international films, in just in general, filmmakers of color, and other demos as well, whether it's with transgender, LGBTQ plus. I mean, every single facet of what we have out in the modern world currently, they do represent at this film festival. So Spills, share with me, what are your thoughts on the Sundance Film Festival going down? It started on Thursday, and it's actually going to continue on until the 28th.
Well, I'm always interested in Sundance. A lot of the movies that are premiered at Sundance often have Oscar buzz and other kinds of award show buzzes that I'm interested in. I believe a lot. We're going to talk a little bit later in the show about some of the Oscars nominations and also the Emmys, and a lot of those successful movies were featured prominently in the Sundance film because Sundance is a tastemaker of sorts, and we're very interested in those. So I'm interested to see in what movies come out as like the more popular movies. Obviously it just started Thursday, so we really haven't heard a lot about what movies people are like. Oh no, this is the one. I believe last year Killers of the Flower Moon was pretty big at Sundance, and it like got me excited for it, and I might mention that a little bit more, but Sundance is always good. I've been interested in going, so hopefully, we'll make it big with this podcast, and then next thing you know, we'll be at Sundance presenting this podcast from there one year. But that's just
Absolutely.
interesting to me. We like to speak things into existence, so Sundance is very interesting to me. I like the concept. I like that they've done more for inclusion to get a diversity of views and stuff because, just like any other industry, there are forces that dominate. So it's good that they are focusing on new ideas because, people have been making the same movies for a long time. It's good to see new movies because I always say, let's give power to the creators because, creativity is, it's new things all the time. The first time we saw The Matrix, it was a creative thing. It was very, very new. And it made a lot of copycats, but it was the newness of it and the originality idea that was very interesting. So, yeah, I'm big on that. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for me, just as you had just mentioned just now, in terms of those bucket list things, I've been fortunate that there have been a lot of bucket list things recently in the last few years. I've been able to kind of, check off or tick off, so to speak. And going way back, Comic-Con obviously was one of them. I've been doing that, for years upon years now. So, I've already been able to check that off. Recently, just prior to the pandemic, that was CES for the longest time, and finally, got around to getting CES under my belt, which I haven't looked back on. And Sundance is one of those film festivals as well. I was talking to the guest that we had on earlier. Shout out to Tim Williams, who is there promoting the film Your Monster as a composer. It opened, or say it premiered on Thursday night. And, one of the things which, similar to me, was something that was on my bucket list outside of Sundance was Cannes Film Festival. So,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
want to go to Sundance, of course. He was mentioning to me earlier
get
that
on that
this was his
plane,
first.
baby.
Hey, he was mentioning to me earlier that this was his first Sundance. So, I was like, I'm jealous, man, that you have your first, you've gotten, your first year in. So, fingers crossed, this will, uh, in the near future, perhaps even next year, get around to, going to Sundance, because it's always been a film festival that I've always wanted to check out. I'm sure we're getting plenty of prep time right now with how the weather is going right now, because they're
Oh yeah.
dealing with the same thing there. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it. It's always a film festival that, again, also that I wanted to check out, because just as you said, it gives you kind of a preview of some of the films that are uh likely going to start generating buzz for that year. So yeah, I don't think there's much else to say there, but yeah, definitely, it's definitely a festival that I'm keen to have an opportunity to go to.
Hmm.
All right, so switching gears from the world of film and TV, if you will, or we'll say films. We'll switch gears over into the world of sports, and this is centered around Pascal Siakam. If you're unless you've been living under a rock, if you are a sports fan, you are aware that Pascal got traded to the Pacers over the course of this week. And I know there has been, a lot of talk of, whether this really tips the scales either way for the Pacers. I know for me, with him being a two-way player, he does bring a lot of intangibles, to that team that's already, on the rise. But overall, it's hard for me to really put my confidence in it really changing them into a championship caliber team. Just to give you guys like a quick glimpse of just like the breakdown of Pascal Siakam's stats. He averages 22.2 points a game currently, which is 30th in the NBA. He averages just over 6 rebounds. That makes him 52nd in the NBA. Almost nearly a 5 assist a game at 4.8, and he shoots at a really great 52.4%. But again, in terms of that game-changing, franchise-changing player, while I believe that he does provide those, he does provide a plus overall to that team. I'm not exactly comfortable to say that it'll make him a title contender. I don't know what your thoughts are, Spillman. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
clicking my mouse. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't agree with that take. I think Pascal Siakam actually makes the Pacers at least they're going to make the conference finals. I think they're going to make the conference finals with him, unless they bump up into the Celtics or the Bucks in one of the earlier rounds. But if they avoid that side of the thing, I could see a way that they can make it to the conference finals at least. Pascal Siakam is a great two-way player. I think that on the Raptors, as they were constituted this year so far, he was the best player. And so he was averaging only, like you said, 22. He was averaging 22.
Yeah,
So I think
22.2, yeah.
22 on 50% shooting is amazing when you're the only good player on your team, to me. While your team is still pretty good, the team wasn't great, but, him being the number one wasn't going to make the team the greatest team in the world. But, I know that you can't tell me who the point guard of the Raptors is right now because he wasn't that good. So I imagine there was a lot of ball handling that Siakam does, and Siakam's not the best ball handler. He could do it, but that's not his main goal. I look at Siakam as more of he's a little bit younger and not as good on defense or offense as Kawhi, but they have very similar games. I see him being the difference maker. Small forwards generally do well with the Pacers. We've seen a lot of successful small forwards with them. And I think that, pairing him with Halliburton, who is emerging as one of the better point guards in the East, if not the league, but definitely in the East. He's top 3 point guard in the East. So putting him with Halliburton and pairing him with a rim protector, like their center, but his name is the boy that like Legos. What's his name? The center.
I got you. I know.
Miles Turner, that's his name.
Yes.
With those 3 guys on defense and offense, I think that they work well together because Turner is more of a jump shooting big. So that'll open up the lane more for Siakam to do what he does because he's more of a slasher. And then Halliburton is a drive and dish kind of guy. So that will also help him. So to me, I think that this is actually what the Pacers needed to take themselves back into that conference championship area that they've been fighting to get back to, maybe even a finals berth, but I don't see it this year. But adding him, he said he wasn't going to re-sign with them, which, everyone says before they re-sign. But, to be paired up with a guy like Halliburton, who's going to be a good point guard for the next 10 years at least, I don't know. To me, as a basketball player and stuff, those things seem to go together with me. a slasher that don't really like to handle the ball but like to get the ball, and a distributor, those guys always work together. And then the guy that works good on defense with a good shot blocker and rim protector, those work good for me. So to me, that's a win-win.
I hear everything that you're saying.
But you like they the Pacers, baby.
Trust me, I'm hearing everything that you're saying, and like I said, he doesn't bring any minuses to the team whatsoever. You know, everything that he does is something that is useful to the team. But when I'm thinking of those game changing, franchise changing players, I'm talking about, you know, just as you said, your Kawhi Leonards, your LeBron Jameses, your Damian Lillards, like, you know, something that can significantly, you know, tilt things in the direction of going to, you know, making you a title contender. And just based off of the lineup, the group of players that they have now with the Pacers, it's far more. It's far more likely in my head that in terms of where they can go this year is, I still believe that they're going to be a playoff team, and I believe that the likelihood of them getting to the finals is a little bit of a stretch. And mind you, you know, crazier things have happened. We talked about, you know, all the wild and crazy things that have happened in past seasons with, you know, what happened in the bubble and you know what happened, you know, with the major movement of players that the Lakers had with moving Westbrook and getting the
You
players.
said the Lakers went to the conference finals last year, Brandon?
Say what?
You said the Lakers went to the conference finals last year? Is that what you said?
Why?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I just like to remind him.
They went to the conference finals, but I guess what I'm saying, make it more succinct, is that I do believe that he makes the team better, but I don't believe that it's enough to make them a title contender. If anything, I see them getting no further than the semifinals for the conference. So for the second round, they may make it interesting in the second round, but like I really just can't see them beating that upper tier of what we have in the Eastern Conference. And like if I'm going to just like give you an example, because this is where the
I only have three teams that I think are better than them in the East at this point. I've got Boston, Milwaukee, and I would have said the Heat. You know, I don't know about the 76ers because the 76ers don't have anybody but Joel. To me, they've got Stuckey and Maxey and all those guys. But, you know, to me, I don't know. And then with the Cavaliers are, I don't know. They got a bunch of undersized guards and stuff.
I get what you're saying. But outside of the Boston Celtics, the Bucks, and the 76ers, like I feel like they are leaps and bounds above where everybody else is. And I do believe that with the lineup as it currently stands and having that addition of Siakam, it can potentially get them into that fourth spot. But if we're talking about them getting into that fourth spot, then that means that if they get past that first round, they are going to have to encounter, you know, one of those three teams come the semifinals. So like, you know, it's hard for me to really look past them actually getting all the way to the conference finals. It's really hard for me to believe. You know, as I said, stranger things have happened. You know, it's a possibility, you know, with injury.
I mean, you're looking at these standings right now. They've won as many games as the Cavaliers have. And this is before they added Siakam. So the team, and they didn't lose any of their really good players. I think they lost Bruce Brown. But I'd give you Bruce Brown to get Siakam back any day. So who knows? I mean, you know, obviously we're talking outside, looking in. But, you know, I don't see it. They're not too far from Boston. And to me, Boston are pretenders. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Siakam is going to take one of those two guys off of the court. Either Brown or Tatum. He's going to take one of those guys and put him in his pocket defensively because that is one thing that Siakam can do. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be very interesting.
But they're deep.
Again, these are the
They're deep.
Pacers. They're deep, and
Again,
they did add the unicorn for the Celtics. But I
again.
don't know.
And see that's another thing too, and I'm glad you brought that up. Is if we're talking about just the Pacers in general, similar to what we have in the Western Conference, I feel like we have a lot of teams this year we have teams that are underachieving, and we have teams
Mm-hmm.
that are overachieving, that are doing far better than we and folks anticipated that they would do. If we're talking about, just to give you guys an example, if we're talking about the Western Conference. Did anyone picture, and this is no shade to the Timberwolves, but did people honestly picture that this time, at this point in this season, that they would be number one in the Western Conference? Like, yes, they were on the rise, but did folks really believe like, oh yeah, they're going to be the top team in the West this year? Like, did people really think that the Thunder were going to be the top among the top two teams in the West this year in terms of where their standing was in the Western Conference? I don't think anyone did. And I mean, there are teams that folks believe that we're going to be at the top end of their respective conferences, and they, as I've mentioned prior times, are severely underachieving in terms of where people anticipated they would be.
You're not talking
So
about the Lakers, are you?
I'm indeed talking about the Lakers. I'm also,
But still, if you look all the way, if you scroll half a tick down, you can see that team is still kind of in that
I'm
playoff
also talking
window.
about my Warriors. I'm also
No, I
talking
don't
about
think
the
that
Warriors
people
too.
thought the Warriors were going to be good this year because,
Well, I'm saying, did
yeah,
people
for
think that they
sure.
weren't even going to be within the top 10, like not even in the play-in conversation? Like,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
didn't expect them to be at the top, but I would at least expected them to be, in the
Where
A
the
spot,
Mavericks
or at
are, for
least, yeah,
sure. Yeah.
exactly, respectable at least.
Or the
So,
Pelicans. What are they doing up there?
hey, like I said, we have some teams that are overachieving, and it's more power to them. Hopefully, they don't end up being one hit wonders where they just have this one hit wonder of a season where they overachieve and they never repeat that. There have been instances of that, but I mean we've had instances where teams have just had those breakout years and they've never looked back. I can't really say that about the Kings, because if we recall this time last year, the Kings were really shooting at hitting at all levels, and now they're looking at themselves at the bottom half of the Western Conference. So it, it's still, there's still a lot of, I know people are thinking that the season is over for a lot of teams, but if you're right there at 500, there's still I feel like a lot of basketball to be played, and I feel like people shouldn't really be panicking until after the All-Star break, when we're really thinking about where our standings are in terms of the playoff aspirations. So, any last thoughts before we move on to our last story?
I thought we had one more story, but yeah, again, it's sad to see my team at the number 10 spot being a conference finals appearance, and we didn't lose nobody, and we didn't have catastrophic injuries so far, and we're every other night LeBron or AD are getting 30 a game, so it's just. But the regular
I'll give
season
credit.
is an
At
aberration.
least, at least no one can say that AD is street clothes.
Oh yeah,
You
he
know,
played.
he ain't street
He
clothes this
played.
year. He
It's
ain't street
just
clothes.
like we got other guys like the other guys have been hurt. I
Nah,
saw online that we were talking about trading Dewante Murray for
you're PG.
AR. Yeah, but no, I wouldn't do that. I don't. I like Murray. He's a great talent. If you look at just at the online talent, like if you look at his stats, but he's never played on a team where he was playing like he's getting those stats and the team is good. So to me, that's fool's gold. I never trust players who've been two places and they have the same number of stats, and the team is still terrible. Like we just looked at the Eastern Conference, and you didn't see the Hawks nowhere. He's been on the Hawks all year. He's been on the Hawks all year. The Hawks have been terrible the whole year. They can't win no games. They have all those nightclubs and somehow can't win home games. So I don't understand that.
Wow. Wow. So with that said, we're gonna switch gears and talk about another award show. And I know we were just, or should say, we want to switch gears again over into the world of film and TV. We were just talking about Sundance Film Festival a little earlier, and we just had an award show that wrapped up this time last week, and that's none other than the Primetime Emmys. So, just to give you guys just a rundown of some of the goings on that happened with the Primetime Emmys, we had a number of shows that won multiple awards. Of course, we had the Bear that earned 6 honors. And we also had what was it, Beef, that also earned us. Well, actually, I'm sorry, not Beef. I apologize. So for Succession, also earned 6 honors as well. So tying 6 honors among the Bear as well as Succession. And there were numerous other shows down the line that won a number of awards, and there were a couple of firsts as well in terms of the acting categories that we had of firsts that went down. We do have another award show, a major award show that will be announcing its nominations on Tuesday this coming week. So we're going to tease that towards the end. You guys probably have an idea of what that is, but I'm going to punt it over to you, Spillman. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Emmys this time last week, but what were your thoughts on what you did check out, if you had an opportunity to see it?
I feel like the Emmys got it right because all the shows that seemed to have won a lot of awards were shows I watched and was like, yo, these are good shows. Like, I love White Lotus because I'm a Jennifer Cooley fan. I like Beef. Like, you said, we talked about Beef. Beef was really good. I was crazy about Succession because, I love Succession. That was a good show. The Last of Us was a good show that won a lot. And yeah, just a lot of these shows were good. I like the top ones that seemed to win a lot. I didn't watch The Bear, though. Personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of what's the name of the show he was on before?
Mandalorian?
No. The guy that's on The Bear. He was
on
that show.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Pedro Pascal. Okay.
No. The cook on the thing. He was on that show that was
on.
I
know I'm brain farting who it is, but
I'm brain farting on the name of the show. But he was on that show, and I like that show. It was an okay show. But the show always seemed to tell me, like, there's certain kind of things that you could do if you're a certain kind of person. And this is a show about those things. So, yeah. So, to me, I was never really a big fan about The Bear, but, it's gotten a lot of buzz for that. I saw that that actress, Io. I'm blanking on Io's last name. But Io got a lot of buzz for that. And then, again, the woman that played Siobhan on Succession got an award, and I liked her performance on that show. I would dare say she was the best of the siblings to me. And it was kind of put up in the beginning of the show, no spoilers, what would happen based on like how she was wrangling things. So it ended up being the way it was going to be. So to me, I think they got it right. I can't think of too many shows that are noticeable exceptions, except for maybe I don't see a lot of nominations for what's the elementary school show? Quinta. Like that. Yeah. That's surprising that they didn't have a bunch of wins. But still, they did good. And I think she won an individual award, but I don't think they won a bunch of awards. But because I can't think of outside of that one. I think it's Abbott Elementary. Is that it? Abbott Elementary?
But yes,
Yeah, I think that like outside of that, I can't think of any noteworthy network sitcoms that are even on TV anymore. So it's just interesting that they got a award. I think she got an award as a writer or as an actress, but I can't think of any other awards that went to that show. But they're really holding down a dinosaur in doing that in the public. So I'm really interested in to see all the winners and everything. But most of the I feel like usually you see these awards like how do all these shows win? But these were the shows last year. Like I know I watched White Lotus. That was the show. The way that show ended was great. I love that. I don't know if you watched the White Lotus.
I
Um,
didn't. I mean, the shows that I did that we do have here that have won have always been. Some of them have been shows that I've had an opportunity to see. Of course, Last of Us. I've been
yeah.
a fan of the game. I mean, if you're a
Hmm.
gamer, you know Last of Us, and
Yeah.
be one of the few shows or adaptations that effectively I feel captured the game and I know they're going to be sticklers out there where it didn't do the game to a T, but like as we know time and time again, if you're doing an adaptation of anything that's popular, whether it's
Yeah.
a comic book, whether it's a novel, whether it's a series of books, whatever the case is, as long as it captures the spirit of what the story is trying to say and it doesn't try to completely overhaul the story, if it's just something minute, which is what was the case of how they executed it with Last of Us, but you still, I would say 95% or 90% of what you have is still there from what you have from the game, then I can forgive the minute changes that you make in order for that particular adaptation to work, as long as it's not too jarring or too drastic from what the source material is. There are some shows that won big, as I just mentioned, that I've always wanted to get around to watching, and I mean we've said it on here time and time again of how much viewing is out there and how much stuff is out there where it doesn't seem like there's enough time in the day, which is a good problem to have, but there doesn't seem enough time to be able to watch all these shows. I haven't had a chance to get into The Bear. I've always wanted to check it out. There are other shows that I also watch too that
Did you watch
hopefully I've just finished, so now I can dive into the show The Bear, and then also other shows too. Shout out to my late colleague Jerome, who many of you know is co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited with me, and um, one of the shows that he watched all the time, and he would like constantly, reminded to me of, man, you gotta watch the show. You gotta watch the show. The show is so good. Like if you like Game of Thrones, if you like uh uh what is it, Billions, then I know you'll like the show. And that was Succession. That was a show that he watched all the time and will watch religiously.
It's
So
good.
yeah, I hear so many great things about that show. So I plan on getting around to watching that show, and even believe it or not, and I know I'm super late on this, guys. The Marvelous Miss Maisel. I've never watched it. Like
I've
I've
never
heard
watched that either, but I've heard
I've
great
heard
things about
I've
it.
heard great things about it. So it'll just I feel like it'll encourage me to take a look at a lot of these shows that I've been hearing so much about, but just haven't had a chance to get around to it. As I said, I'm thankfully now, and probably I will get more opportunities to do so with the way the weather is currently here on the East Coast, with all the snow that we're getting, to be able to catch up on some things. I know that I was able to catch up on all of those spinoff, what is it, Walking Dead spinoff series that I had always been meaning to get around to. And then additionally, even with some of the other shows with, was it with, was it the Godzilla prequel that we have with um, brain farting on it on Monarch that I've had an opportunity to check out too, which has been, a terrific series so far. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of it, Spillman, but
I haven't, but I wanted to ask: have you watched? I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robbins. That show is funny.
no, I need to check that out too. So yeah, that is definitely on my list as well to check out for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
but no, I Think You Should Leave is possibly one of the funniest sketch shows I've seen in a while, and it's like not the typical sketch show where they're just doing like pop culture takes. It's just all just the nonsense. It's kind of like a sketch show version of Curb Your Enthusiasm to me, where it's silly and they're doing outrageous things, but instead of it being like a character in the world, it's just like vignettes, and it's very funny. So I think that was a good show. I saw that it got 2 noms, which is great. But if you look at the internet, his like silly things they've memeified all the things from that show. So to me, that's one you got to watch too, because the internet catches on to what's truly funny. So to me, that was a good one.
Okay. All right. So I gotta add one more thing to my list of things to check out. So like I said, more stuff to add to that list. Now, moving on from a award show that we had with the Emmys and that news there, we have 2 upcoming events, or I should say, one that is ongoing and started this weekend, and another one which will soon be on the way as we as they announce their nominations. But first, we're going to dive into a show that's local to us here in DC, and that's none other than the DC Auto Show 2024. Now, I have had an opportunity in many years to be able to check out this show, and just to give kind of just a breakdown in general, of this show, just like you have with any other car show, that provides you a look at various manufacturers and some of the innovations that they have, with their upcoming models of cars. There are a couple of standout ones that from what I understand will make their appearance at this year's show. We do have, let's see, just going down the list, there are going to be displays from Toyota, from Ford, from Hyundai, from Nissan, Subaru, as well as many others. The show started on on the 19th, and will carry on up through the 28th. So similar to what we have with the Sundance Film Festival, will similarly be ending on the same day next week. So we have Sundance going on, we have the DC Auto Show going on. Spillman, what are your thoughts?
So,
Sorry, go
ladies and
ahead.
gentlemen, yeah. So my son is an avid car person. My father's a very big car person. So over the years, I've always gone to the auto show here in the city. We really enjoy it. I haven't done any of the driving because generally, since I've been an adult, I haven't gone as much. But since I've had my son, we go every year. I don't do the driving because the line is always long, but I've always wanted to. When he gets a little bit older, maybe we'll do it. But it's good to see the new cars every year. It's one of the funnest things for him because he gets to sit in all of them, check out all the lights and all the different tech. Yeah, it's like my annual pilgrimage back to the convention center whenever the auto show is here. The last year I went, they had the electric Fords out, but they didn't have them out. Like you couldn't like sit in them and stuff. But this year it looks like you could drive them because it does say that the drivable cars are all electric cars, and Ford is one of the options. And I can't think of any other Ford that's an EV. So maybe we could if you go back tomorrow, you could test drive the Mustang EV, which is pretty cool looking. Um, Although we did learn this week that when it's chilly spilly time, not the best time to have a car that don't just take the petrol. So sure, that's probably just the infrastructure thing. Obviously, if they had as many charging stations as they did gas stations, we wouldn't be talking about this, but they don't. So we're going to talk about it. How do you feel about that? Do you have you driven anything at the auto show before?
I haven't, and I'm just going to compare it to. I'll just say this: there have been many years that I have gone to the auto show. I want to say in the last probably since probably since high school. So I guess that would be about, gosh, 20 years ago. Geez. Um, and it's been, pretty sporadic. Like I would go here, I would miss a couple of years there. I would go again consecutively for a few years and stop going. But last year, I'm just going to say this, like it was so disappointing in terms of what vehicles there were to offer. And I mean, I understand that at that time we're a lot of the organizations that we have are still, we're just getting, or I should say just in general, a lot of trade shows we're just getting back to normal out of what we were going on through with the pandemic. And if you were here, listening to the show last year, a good friend of mine, childhood friend Jason, he was commenting. He's a big uh uh, gearhead, big car guy, and he had mentioned this, and I realized that was something that made a lot of sense in terms of what I was observing, and that's just the idea that a lot of manufacturers are similar to what we have with pop culture shows, are finding it less and less financially um, useful to go to car shows when there's so many other ways to market to consumers, where instead of shelving out so much money to send teams out to these auto shows and to send their models out to these auto shows, they can do very niche things that are specific to their company that potential customers can check out without having to really spend millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to go to a lot of these shows. And so, you're seeing fewer and fewer as a result go to these shows because they're finding more cost effective ways to be able to market the models to potential customers. It's bad for us, for those of us who like going to the auto show, but, with those, companies that are trying to be more cost effective in terms of how they are reaching consumers. I mean, it makes sense. So, what I saw there, I mean, there were a few things, that I was able to, check out there. I'm gonna plan on going out there again tomorrow. So we'll see. As I said, there were, it seemed like there was, a little more there, but mind you, I only saw part of the floor. I didn't have a chance to go downstairs. I ended up seeing, some of the other stuff that they had in other parts of the facility. So yeah, we'll definitely see. We'll definitely see. But any final thoughts before we hop into the last part of our show, Spillman? And give him a second there. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah,
guys, we got the
you're
magic
fine.
of live television.
You're good. You're good. So while we, yeah, you're fine. So while Spills takes care of that just for a second, let us know, because as I said, we do have the auto show going on until the 28th. Let us know if there are some portions of the show with the auto show, if you are attending, that that you enjoyed the most, and let us know in the comments if there have been some portions that you guys have enjoyed a lot, and perhaps there's some things that you guys didn't enjoy, from the auto show. Share it with us, so that way it give us some preparation, or allows us to gauge a little bit, those expectations that I have in going to the show. So I'm still going to give Spillman, just a moment there before you can hop on. The magic of
Yeah,
live.
sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
It's all
I got a
good.
rambunctious 4-year-old over here.
All good. All good, man. Like I said, it's the nature of live TV.
But
Or,
I don't think Tesla was featured. Was Tesla? Did Tesla send any models over there?
I didn't have a chance to see Tesla. Most of the stuff that
But
I
were
saw,
they there?
I believe so. I didn't have a chance to verify
Because
that.
I think that's the most controversial car of the year. Is that
Yeah,
Cybertruck, because they made it out of uh, you know driver killing materials, and that's what they're saying about them. So I'm interested in that to see how rigid it is, because that's one thing that old car enthusiasts talk about is cars break up much easier now, but that's also because we're smarter and we understand that, like, if a car breaks, you don't break, and ultimately that's what's more important, is that you don't break, not the car. Like, sure,
right.
it sucks to lose $70,000 on a car, but $70,000 does not equal your life, brother. Always remember that. No matter how much money you pay for something, if you live in, it's okay. Like, if you could walk away from that car crash, relatively unscathed, because it's to the point now that you see people wreck cars and nothing really happens to them. And it used to be, if you saw a car wreck that looks like the car wrecks now, that person was dead. So, not to
Right.
say the D word on the to demonetize us, but it's just amazing
Please don't. Please
how
don't.
far these things how far these things have come. So we're just, I'm excited. I'm wondering what that is. I'll probably take my son to see it. So yeah.
Nah, definitely, definitely. All right, so that's gonna wrap up, what we're talking about with the auto show, and we're gonna dive into what you saw as the title of today's show, and that's none other than the Oscars. They're going to be announcing the nominations for the Oscars live. They're doing a global live stream on Tuesday. Now, just to give just a um, little preview of some of the goings on Tuesday. We'll have actors Zazie Beats as well as Jack Quaid. As I said, they'll be making the announcement with all the nominations. There are a couple of films and performances that I'm curious and have an inkling that we may see among the Oscars, just based on how the award shows thus far have been going. We have had a couple of other award shows that have transpired that kind of give you a potential tease of what to expect, but I'm curious, Spills, like, are there any particular films that you saw, or maybe some performances with some films that come to mind for you that could be possible predictions? I know for me, there have been a couple of films such as Oppenheimer or Maestro, or the Holdovers, or Killers of the Flower Moon, just to name a few, or even The Color Purple. And I know, in terms of like performances, with Jeffrey Wright with American Fiction, or Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, Cillian Murphy, of course, for Oppenheimers, and Bradley Cooper for Maestro. If I'm, picturing, actors, and even Emma Stone, because I know she's, really had a lot of you know a momentum this award season for a performance in Poor Things. So just rattling off some of those names, and or see some of those films and some of those performances. Are there any that come to mind for you that might be possibilities?
So for me, I think the number one movie of the year will be, to me, was Killers of the Flower Moon. Although it's probably going to be something else, but to me, Killers of the Flower Moon was the movie. I love a good Scorsese film, and I think that this one captured truly, you know, his crime epic, even though it wasn't his traditional fare of the, Italian mob subject matter that he uses so often. but I'm interested in that. I also liked May December. That was an interesting movie. I think that may get some buzz, just because of the subject matter and Natalie Portman's and Julianne Moore's performances.
All right, our co-host is a little indisposed. Just giving him a second. I'll give him a second to get back on here.
Sorry
Um,
about that, guys.
no, you're all
Ah,
good. You're all good.
I've just got a little monster in here that lives with me. I call my mom.
All good. All good,
Yeah, but
man.
anyway,
Yes.
I thought those were two movies, and then the movie with Marshala Ali and Julia Roberts. That was the Obama film.
Oh
Um,
yes. Yeah. Yes.
what's the name of that movie?
Yes. 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 I know. And again, I
We're
know which.
blanking on these names. We're not.
I
It's so
know.
many movies every year, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
know exactly what you're talking about. Um,
But that was a really interesting movie. So I imagine that's not going to get much buzz. But those performances were strong. Like you said, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and all the things that we saw were very good. So I'm interested in those things. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being so patient with me while I have a noisy background.
all good. Like I said,
Yeah,
live show.
so
It's all good.
it's
But
just
yeah, no.
I think I'm interested in that. What we talked about the movies that are probably going to get a buzz. What do you feel about movies that you saw last year that if we were living in a perfect world would get that Oscar buzz that they're not getting?
Well, here's the thing. I think there are a lot of repeats of some. I should say I'm getting some deja vu of prior award seasons and how the makeup of a lot of the nominees were. So if I'm thinking back on the year of, I feel like the film Barbie is having kind of like the year that what is it, Black Panther had, where it was being discussed among the Oscars, and getting the nominations that it got, and it's just because it just transcended, I feel like, the the zeitgeist, if you will, of pop culture, where like everywhere you turned, like it was everywhere. And I feel like that's the kind of year that the Barbie film is having. So I really will be interested to see if it actually gets the nod for Best Picture, even if it doesn't necessarily get the nominations for the performances. I'll be curious to see if as a whole, as a collective piece, that it gets the nod, even if it doesn't win, that it at least gets a nod for Best Picture.
And
Um,
also, it did well in the box office. Even though Barbie is a known commodity in the world. Turning that into a standalone movie, and having an original idea for it. Like we always say, I think artistically has a lot of value. Even though we're talking about a doll that's been in the lexicon since the 60s, and Yo Mama, my sister, my nieces and nephews have all, like, everybody's played with them. So to me, we skipped over Barbie, obviously, because, we're men. But Barbie, it was the
But
year of Barbie for
I
sure.
mean, you can't deny, like, regardless, like, you can't deny how much of a how, like I said, how much of a transcendent year it's had being in theaters, and how it's, I know we were talking about it even last week of talking about how things, I feel like a lot of times the Academy recognizes films that maybe not wouldn't typically get nominated, but because of just how transcendent it is, and how much of an impact or splash that it makes within pop culture, that it still gets the nod, even though there may not be any intention of it winning, but just having it nominated allows it to get that recognition. I still feel like there is very much a possibility that it could very well be nominated. In terms of films that will win, I would say it's a toss up between probably Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer. Um, just with just the I don't know, just the overall uh, um, direction that you have with Oppenheimer, not just with the the embarrassment of talent that you have with the ensemble, but being able to maximize, that talent that you have in the film, and also be able to utilize, all the elements at your disposal to make, a a an awesome film, whether it's with, like I said, with what's happening with the performances, even with the technical aspects. If we're talking about with the sound and how um, the how it was shot, while you have, terrific artists in each of those categories, you still need to have that captain of the ship that can properly utilize all of the talents of each of those artists to make, a great product and make a great film. And I feel like that's the case with Oppenheimer. And it's not to say that Killers of the Flower Moon doesn't do that. But if I'm just, thinking of what we commonly see with the Oscars love their, their period pieces and their biopics. So, I just, based off of, what we've seen as a trend with not just nominees, but even with films that have won, that feels like it has all of those pieces there that the Academy loves in terms of its Oscar winners. And folks love Christopher Nolan. So, and in terms of like the momentum that he has had with prior award shows, it just feels like, this is just going to be that further, icing on that cake of potentially winning an Oscar.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. I think that this
Lost there.
might have come to the end.
No
Yeah,
worries.
but the Oscars are interesting. So I'm just excited to see where they are and what they're doing. That's exciting for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I
So
think
we'll
Killers of the
definitely.
Flower Moon definitely the number one movie to me. A lot of the things that you said about biopics and stuff, Killers of the Flower Moon is a true story, based on a true story as they are. So
It is.
to me, it's very interesting.
It definitely is. So I tell you what, I'm gonna continue on just a little more with some of our nominations, um, and in getting into some of the performances, going down, some possibilities. Of course, we have, if we're talking about Best Actor, you have Bradley Cooper potentially with Maestro. As I mentioned a little earlier, Jeffrey Wright with American Fiction, Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, of course, and Paul Giamatti for Holdovers. In terms of the performances there, Leonardo DiCaprio, as always, he gives great performances. I feel like he's one of those actors that, is just perennially, year after year, right there during award season. But in terms of the performances themselves, that again, if I were to use that term of transcending, for me, it's between Cillian Murphy and Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper, performance that he had in Maestro was incredible. Same goes for, Cillian Murphy, and it is no slight against Jeffrey Wright or Leonardo or Paul, because Paul Giamatti is one of my favorite actors. I just feel between, those two films in terms of, or should say, those two performances are neck and neck in terms of, those potential performances that will get nominated this year, and those are the two that I feel are going to be right there in the likelihood that they will probably get nominated. I have either one of those two actually winning. So let me check back in with um, co-host there. So I'm going to continue a little further, going down some of our performances, and then I'll check in briefly, with our co-host. We lost him there just for a second. Now, if we're talking about leading
Okay, yeah, I'm
actress,
back. I'm back. I'm sorry.
you're fine. You're fine, Spills.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just getting into some of the performances themselves and the performance potential nominations, and some of the ones that we probably will see in all likelihood will be Bradley Cooper with Maestro. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
Yeah.
Um, Jeffrey Wright with American Fiction, Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, with Killers of the Flower Moon, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Paul Giamatti. Excuse me, Paul Giamatti for Holdovers. Now, I was telling folks that while I believe that these are good guesses for who we have for our nominations in terms of the two that I feel that are neck and neck that could win actually that Oscar for best actor will more than likely, I feel, between either Cooper and Murphy. And that's just by virtue of the fact that while I think that Wright is a terrific actor, I love Jeffrey Wright as an actor. The
And he
voice
from the
that
crib. He from here. He from the crib.
he is. Shout out, shout out. And the same goes for Paul Giamatti. Like I just mentioned Billions earlier. He's like one of my favorite actors. I think he's awesome. And Leonardo, like I mentioned before, just hop back on. I feel like he's one of those perennial actors that even when he doesn't win, like it's weird if it's a year that he doesn't at least get nominated because he always, puts in good, if not great, performances. I feel like out of the generation of actors that he's in, he's very much like he's becoming the Meryl Streep of the actors in the current generation, where we're going to see him, of course, time and time again with the nominations, but he may not always win. Among those potential nominees, as I said, Cooper and Murphy are like neck and neck with me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you can hear me, but in some of the other nominations, we talked about a lot of the movies. All right, you're back. Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
I can hear you. Pretty good.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I just think that talking about the Oscars, we don't know what we're going to see. So this is all conjecture, and
It
we
is.
might see
It is.
John Wick 4 up there. I like John Wick 4. They've
Oh
been
my
shooting a lot of people and doing
God,
gung
we're not
fu
gonna
and
see
all
John
kinds of.
Wick 4, guys. We are not going to see John Wick
we might
4.
we might see Marvels on there.
At least, at least, at least, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see it for Best Picture, and I don't think we're going to see it for maybe for some of like
Special effects or
the
something.
yeah. I would definitely
Fight
picture that
choreography. They
we
should
have it
have
there.
that as a
Oh yeah, for sure,
yeah.
for sure,
Because there was a
for
lot
sure.
of fight dancing in that movie that looked very cool. So but
Absolutely.
they it's the Oscars. We complain, but this Oscars, sadly, we're leaving. The nominations are great, but we're leaving the elephant in the room. Is somebody gonna get slapped this year? Because
Oh man,
oh my god.
can we not can we not can we
Oh,
not have someone get slapped this year? So yeah, can we not do
like
that?
what?
Can we not?
Yeah.
So
So
um, but yeah, nah. I mean, as I said, there are a lot of. I'm very much going to be interested and I tease some of it. Obviously, there are far more nominees, whether we're talking about best actress, best supporting actor, best supporting actress. Just as you said, some of the other awards in terms of the other categories that we have with costume design and things of that nature. What is it? Editing, as well as scores as well. Love my scores, so I'll definitely be tuning in. We'll try to do our best. I'll try to see if I can share the over on the movers and shakers respective social media channels, whether it's on our Twitter or our X, if you will, or on Facebook. Try to share, the live stream that will be happening on Tuesday to give the official nominations. All right, so there you guys have it. This will wrap up our show of this week in, I'm about to say this week in review, but this week in pop culture. Have it.
Hey,
But
hey.
yes, this week in pop culture. Before I let you go, Spillman, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me and my adventures online on Instagram, on Truly Spill on Instagram. I've got wholesome pictures up there. And, we can talk about what you think should have won some Oscars if you'd like. I have lots of things to say, and we hope that you give this show 5 stars and tell your friends and mom and her friends about the show. And so we keep spreading the gospel that is this week in pop culture.
Absolutely. So there you guys have it. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. I want to thank Spillman once again for hopping on this week in pop culture, um, uh, manning the co-host seat, even among all the chaos that happens in the live show. I appreciate you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon.
Peace. Five
Peace.
stars, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. 5 stars.